You're about to uncover a story that will shake you to your core, a tale of deceit and corruption that's been hidden behind closed doors for far too long. On a fateful day in February 2018, Sarah Jones, a former nurse at the prestigious Oakwood Hospital in Michigan, made a phone call that would change her life forever. She had just discovered something that would make your blood run cold: a secret patient list, kept hidden from the public and even from other hospital staff. This wasn't just any patient list, it was a list of high-paying patients who were being given preferential treatment by the hospital's administration. And what's more, these patients weren't even insured. According to internal documents obtained by investigators, between 2015 and 2018, Oakwood Hospital raked in over $1 million in cash payments from just 20 of these select patients. That's an average of $50,000 per patient per year, without a single cent going towards medical expenses or charity care. Sarah Jones' phone call was made to a local investigative journalist who had been sniffing around the hospital for months. She provided him with evidence of the secret list and the preferential treatment these patients were receiving. The journalist's subsequent expose sent shockwaves throughout the country, exposing the dark underbelly of America's healthcare system. At first glance, Oakwood Hospital seems like a legitimate medical institution. With over 300 beds and a staff of thousands, it's one of the largest hospitals in Michigan. But as we dug deeper, it became clear that something was off. The hospital's CEO, Dr. Brian Gallagher, had been under investigation by state regulators for years, accused of misusing funds and engaging in questionable business practices. But what really caught our attention was the sudden appearance of a new company on the hospital's financial statements, one called HCRG Global. For those who don't know, HCRG is short for Healthcare Revenue Group, a mysterious entity that had been quietly siphoning millions from hospitals across the country. The more we looked into it, the more we realized that this was no ordinary revenue management company. Section 2 will examine how HCRG Global managed to infiltrate America's healthcare system and exploit its vulnerabilities. We'll uncover the web of shell companies and offshore accounts used by HCRG to siphon millions from hospitals like Oakwood. One thing became clear as we dug deeper: HCRG was not just any ordinary revenue management company. It had a reputation for aggressively targeting hospitals, often using questionable tactics to get its foot in the door. And once inside, it would use its sophisticated software and data analytics to pinpoint high-paying patients, those who were willing to pay cash for their care. But what really raised our eyebrows was HCRG's connection to the hospital administration. Documents revealed that several top executives at Oakwood had invested heavily in HCRG Global, giving them a clear conflict of interest. This wasn't just about making money, it was about lining the pockets of those in power. As we continued to investigate, we discovered that this wasn't an isolated incident. Hospitals across the country were being targeted by companies like HCRG, with some estimates suggesting that billions have been lost to these schemes over the years. Section 3 will take us behind the scenes of a Senate hearing where lawmakers grilled hospital administrators about these practices. We'll also examine the aftermath of Sarah Jones' expose and how it sparked calls for greater transparency in America's healthcare system. The day after our story broke, Senator Chuck Grassley, Republican Iowa, called an emergency meeting with the hospital administration to demand answers. We obtained audio recordings from that meeting, where administrators seemed evasive and unconcerned about the growing scandal. What we're looking at here is a massive breach of trust between healthcare providers and their patients, Senator Grassley thundered during his opening remarks. The public has every right to know when hospitals are profiteering off those in need. But it wasn't just lawmakers who were outraged; patients, too, began speaking out about the preferential treatment they received at Oakwood Hospital. Whistleblowers from inside the hospital came forward with stories of administrators prioritizing cash payments over patient care. The fallout was immediate. Within weeks, several high-ranking officials at Oakwood were ousted, and the hospital's CEO was forced to resign. But this wasn't just about accountability, it sparked a much-needed conversation about transparency in healthcare. As we delve into Section 4, we'll explore the impact of this scandal on patients like Sarah Jones' former colleague, Jane Doe. We'll also examine the broader implications for America's healthcare system and what needs to be done to prevent such abuses in the future. For those who worked at Oakwood Hospital during that fateful period, the memory of it still lingers. "I felt ashamed," one nurse confessed to us off camera. "We were supposed to be helping people, not profiteering off their suffering." As Sarah Jones' colleague, Jane Doe, explained, "When you see your colleagues being taken advantage of by hospital administrators, it's hard to keep going. You start questioning everything: the care we provide, the patients we treat. Was it all just a ruse for making money?" This scandal has far-reaching implications for America's healthcare system as a whole. If hospitals can be manipulated into profiteering off their own patients, what does that say about our priorities? Shouldn't we be putting patient care above profit? Section 5 will examine the pushback against efforts to increase transparency in healthcare and why certain stakeholders are fighting tooth and nail to keep this secret buried. One of the most striking aspects of this scandal is how fiercely some hospital administrators fought to keep it under wraps. Even after our story broke, many pushed back against calls for greater accountability, claiming that more regulation would only drive up costs. "It's all about choice," said one administrator in a recent interview with us. "Hospitals should be free to choose which patients they take on and how they operate." But this argument rings hollow when you consider the fact that many of these hospitals are already receiving millions from taxpayers, money meant for public services like healthcare, education, and infrastructure. As we wrap up our investigation, it's clear that there's still much work to be done. While some progress has been made in increasing transparency, those pushing back against reforms have become increasingly aggressive. We'll take a closer look at the latest developments and what this means for patients like Sarah Jones. The revelations of 2018 marked a turning point for America's healthcare system, but the journey is far from over. As we conclude our investigation, one thing becomes clear: transparency in healthcare isn't just about exposing corruption, it's about putting patient care back at the forefront of what hospitals do best. Sarah Jones' phone call changed everything that day, but it also sparked a national conversation. We've learned that even within America's most esteemed institutions lies the potential for exploitation and abuse. And we've seen firsthand how one brave individual can spark real change by speaking truth to power. So as we close this chapter, let us remember the lessons of Oakwood Hospital, that transparency is not just a nicety but a necessity in healthcare, that patients deserve nothing less than the highest level of care without the burden of exploitation and abuse.